Welcome to Noblest Veterinary, where every paw matters. We bring expert care, real stories, and life-saving tips for your beloved pets. Because here, it's not just vet talk, it's family. It started with a slipper. A chewed-up old thing, half foam, half fabric, completely useless. The kind of thing any sane person would have tossed in the trash 6 years ago. But Max carried it around like it held the key to everything. His past, his purpose, his entire little world. Max is a Labrador, 14 years old, gray around the muzzle, slower in the hips, but still wagging. He's been my shadow since I rescued him when he was 3. He was a handful back then, chased squirrels like it was a full-time job, barked at the vacuum cleaner like it owed him money, always had dirt on his nose like he'd been digging secrets out of the backyard. But the thing with Max is, he's always been sharp. Too sharp sometimes. Learned how to open the fridge, figured out how to unlatch the gate, once even turned on the faucet in the bathtub. I'd come home to soaked floors and a guilty look, and somehow I'd still laugh because how could you not? That was Max. So when he started forgetting stuff, I noticed right away. And not in a, he's getting older, kind of way. This was different. He'd stand in corners like he forgot why he walked into the room. Or worse, he'd stare at the wall for minutes, tail still, ears down, like he was listening for something that wasn't there. The slipper thing, that was his comfort. But then one day, he didn't recognize it. He looked at it like it was foreign, backed away from like it might hurt him. That broke me a little. Now, look, dogs age. They get stiff. They get slower. They nap more. They run less. They don't hear you when you call from the kitchen. That's normal. That's life. But canine cognitive dysfunction, dog dementia, is not just aging. It's something else entirely. It creeps in like fog, not all at once. At first, it's just weird quirks you try to explain away. Max started pacing in circles, tight ones, always clockwise. I thought maybe he was sore, or maybe his hips were locking up. Then he started waking me up at 3 a.m., barking at nothing. He'd never been a barker, not like that. Here's the thing a lot of people miss. Dementia in dogs doesn't look like dementia in humans. There's no obvious moment where you say, there it is. It's more like a slow erosion. Your dog is still there, but he's not all there. And that's brutal to watch. You start questioning everything. Is he just tired? Did he eat something weird? Is it his joints, his hearing, his sight? You take him to the vet, hoping for something simple, an ear infection, low blood sugar, anything that has a pill and a plan. But then the vet says something like, we're seeing signs of cognitive decline, and suddenly everything changes. That phrase, cognitive decline, it sounds so polite, like maybe your dog just needs a crossword puzzle and a nap. But what it really means is his brain isn't firing like it used to. The signals get crossed, memory gets fuzzy, instincts go missing. Max forgot how to sit. Not the word, he still heard it, still tried, but the movement itself, gone. He'd kind of bend his legs, then freeze, confused, like his body had no idea how to follow the command. That's when I knew it wasn't just it was something deeper. And the guilt, it's heavy. You start thinking about all the times you rushed him outside instead of letting him sniff. The days you skipped the walk because you were tired, the hours he spent alone while you worked. Suddenly, every minute feels like it should have mattered more. I sat on the floor with Max that night. Just sat with him, hand on his side, listening to him breathe. He twitched in his sleep, chasing something in a dream. Maybe a squirrel. Maybe nothing. And I just kept thinking, how much does he still remember? See, dogs live in moments. That's their gift. They don't dwell. They don't hold grudges. They wake up and it's a new day every time. But when dementia hits, even the moments start slipping through their paws. They don't remember where they are. Sometimes they don't even recognize you. That's the part nobody warns you about. You can be sitting right there, like always, and your dog looks at you like you're a stranger. And in that second, your heart drops into your stomach. Because, it's not you. It's not anything you did. It's the disease. But damn, it still hurts. Let's break it down, though. What actually is canine dementia? Technically, it's called canine cognitive dysfunction syndrome, or CCDS. It's kind of like Alzheimer's in humans. The brain physically changes. Plaque builds up. Nerve cells degenerate. Neurotransmitters don't work the way they should. Basically, the machine starts short, circuiting. Most common in senior dogs, usually over 10, but it can hit earlier, and it's more common than people realize. A study showed that over 60% of dogs older than 11 show at least one symptom of CCD. 60%. That's not a fluke. That's an epidemic we're not talking about enough. The signs aren't always obvious. That's the tricky part. Some are subtle, like forgetting house training. Others are more dramatic, like getting lost in your own living room. Here's a quick way to remember them. Vets call it the dysfunction acronym. D is for disorientation. Your dog wanders, gets stuck behind furniture, or stares at walls. Basically, they get confused in familiar places. I is for interaction changes. They might pull away from you, act anxious, or even forget other pets they've known for years. S is for sleep-wake cycle reversal. That 3 a.m. barking, classic sign. They're up all night and asleep all day. H is for house soiling. Accidents happen, even with dogs who've been perfectly trained their whole lives. A is for activity level changes. Either they pace constantly or just zone out for long periods. None of these mean dementia on their own. But put a few together, and you've got a pattern. And if you're noticing these things, don't just brush them off. That's the mistake people make. They wait too long, thinking it'll go away. It won't. Now let's talk about the emotional side. Yours, not just the dog's. Caring for a dog with dementia is hard and lonely. There's no dementia dog support group at the park. Most people don't get it. They say stuff like, he's just old, or maybe it's time, and maybe they mean well. But those words, they sting, because you're the one who sees it. You're the one waking up at 3 a.m. to soothe him. You're the one cleaning up the accidents, holding his head when he's shaking, wondering if he's scared in his own skin. You're the one counting the good days and silently begging for just a few more. So what can you actually do? First off, don't give up. There are treatments. They don't cure it, but they can slow it down, sometimes significantly. And every extra week of clarity, every tail wag, every time they still remember your face, that matters. There are medications like selagiline, S-brand, Neanapril. It's a MAO inhibitor that helps increase dopamine in the brain. Basically, it supports better signaling between neurons. It's not magic, but it helps some dogs stay sharper longer. Then there are supplements. Same omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants like vitamin E and C. These support brain health. Not a silver bullet, but they're tools. And when your dog is fading, any tool is worth trying. And diet. Huge. There are prescription diets formulated specifically for cognitive health, loaded with nutrients that target brain function. Hill's Bite is one example. Again, it's not about reversal. It's about slowing the slide. But here's what's just as important as meds and food: routine. Dogs with dementia thrive on predictability. Same walk time, same food spot, same bedtime. Keep it consistent even if they seem confused. That routine becomes their anchor. And stimulation. Not overdoing it, but small things. Gentle play, puzzle toys, simple commands with big praise. Even just brushing their fur, talking to them. Engage their senses. Remind them they're still part of this world. This isn't just about keeping them alive longer. It's about keeping them living while they're alive. You feel me? Because this is where people get it twisted. They start thinking in black and white terms, like, he's either totally fine or it's time to say goodbye. But dementia lives in the gray. Your dog can have bad moments and still love you. Still enjoy a treat. Still feel the sun on his back and wag his tail. Still be him, just in fragments. And those fragments, they're worth fighting for. So, Max and I, we adjusted. Not because it was easy, but because I owed him that. I started keeping the lights on at night so he wouldn't get lost in the dark. Put rugs down where the floors were slippery. Moved furniture so he couldn't trap himself in a corner. Every little change was like a breadcrumb trail, guiding him back to comfort. One night, I woke up to the sound of his nails tapping the hardwood. He was pacing. Again, I got up, half asleep, and followed him. He'd walked into the laundry room, stood there like he was waiting for something, just lost. And when I said his name, softly, gently, he turned around, eyes cloudy, and I swear to you, for a split second, he didn't know who I was. That moment, it cracked something in me. Because what are we really without memory? If love is made of memories, shared routines, familiar smells, old walks, inside jokes, what happens when one half forgets? But then he blinkers perked. And just like that, recognition came rushing back. His tail gave a lazy thump. He walked to me like nothing had happened, like the light had come back on in his brain. It's not linear. That's something people need to understand. It's not a steady decline. There are days when your dog seems like himself again, and those days, they are gold. But there are also days where nothing makes sense to him. Days when the fog is thick and cold, and you're both just trying to get through it without breaking down. You start to redefine success. It's no longer about how far he can walk or how well he remembers commands. It's about whether he ate breakfast, whether he found his bed on his own, whether he wagged his tail when you said, "Good boy." You learn to celebrate the small wins. Because in the world of Canine Dementia, small wins are everything. Let me give you something useful now, something you can actually do today. If you suspect your dog is struggling, start a journal, not a poetic one, just a log. Jot down things like, did he eat normally? Did he sleep through the night? Any accidents? Seemed confused in the kitchen. Played with his toy for 5 minutes. Why? Because memory fails you, too. Especially when you're stressed. Especially when you're trying to convince yourself things aren't as bad as they are, or worse, when you're spiraling and thinking it's all worse than it really is. That log becomes your reality check. It helps your vet see the big picture. It helps you track patterns. And more importantly, it helps you be objective when you're making hard decisions. Now let's talk about the stuff people avoid. The messy stuff. Like aggression. Yes, it can happen. A sweet, gentle dog can become unpredictable. Not out of malice, but fear, confusion, disorientation. If your dog growls at you, or snaps, or suddenly becomes afraid of being touched, that's not him being bad. That's him being scared, overwhelmed, maybe even in pain. You've got to learn his boundaries. Watch his body language like a hawk. Give him space when he needs it. Protect him from overstimulation. It's not about discipline. It's about compassion. Another thing they don't tell you, dogs with dementia often lose their ability to signal pain. They stop whining, stop limping. But that doesn't mean they're not hurting. Max started walking funny, kind of a staggered gait, almost like he was drunk. I thought it was the dementia. Turned out he had arthritis in his spine. He just didn't know how to tell me anymore. And that's dangerous, because when your communication system breaks down, pain can go unnoticed and untreated. So, get a vet involved early, do the blood work, check the joints, rule everything out, because if you're only treating the brain and ignoring the body, you're missing half the picture. Okay, now let's flip it, because it's not all doom. There's still joy. You hear me? There's still joy. Max still wags his tail when he smells peanut butter, still chases birds in his dreams, still nudges his food bowl when he thinks dinner's late. That's the thing about dogs. They're built to find joy in the smallest, dumbest stuff. A squeaky toy, a sunbeam, a squirrel on the fence. Dementia doesn't erase that, not completely. It just makes those moments shorter, more fleeting. But they still count. You start creating new rituals, new cues. Max didn't understand calm anymore, but he'd still respond to a whistle. Didn't know what bedtime meant, but if I turned off the TV and clapped my hands twice, he'd head toward the bedroom. You get creative. You stop expecting old behave ones. You adapt. And in doing that, something incredible happens. You build trust all over again. Even as your dog forgets the world, he remembers how you make him feel. Safe, loved, seen. That's the one thing dementia can't fully take. That emotional memory. The bond. The warmth, the instinct to lean into you when he's scared, even if he doesn't know why he's scared. So if you're watching your dog fade, I want you to hear this. You're not helpless. You're not just a bystander. You're his lighthouse. You're the constant in a world that no longer makes sense to him. He might forget the rules. He might forget the path home. He might forget your face. But he won't forget your love. You know what wrecks people the most? Nighttime. Not because of the lack of sleep. Though yeah, that sucks too. But because that's when it gets real quiet. That's when the house goes still and there's nothing left to distract you from the fact that your dog is pacing in the hallway again. Or barking at a blank wall. Or standing in the middle of the room like he's waiting for instructions from a world he can't hear anymore. Max used to sleep through anything. Thunder, fireworks, the the UPS truck. None of it fazed him. But with dementia, it was like his internal clock just disintegrated. He'd sleep all afternoon, then come alive at 1:30 in the morning, barking, wandering, sometimes even whining. It's called sundowning. Same thing happens in humans with dementia. The brain loses track of the time-day rhythm, and the anxiety spikes when the sun goes down. It's real, and it's rough. So here's what worked for us. Maybe it helps you. I started giving Max his last walk around 7 p.m. Nothing crazy, just a slow stroll. Let him sniff everything. Tire his brain out, not just his legs. Then dinner. Then a short, calm play session. Then a natural sleep aid, melatonin with vet approval, lights dim, sounds low. No loud TV, no chaos. Just quiet consistency. And when he woke up in the middle of the night, I didn't scold him. Didn't act frustrated, even when I was dead exhausted. I got up, gave him water, walked him gently down the hallway and back, told him he was okay, then settled us both back down. Sometimes that routine repeated 3 or 4 times a night. I was basically running on caffeine and stubbornness. But it mattered, because Max wasn't being difficult. He was scared, disoriented, and I had to be his anchor. People will ask, how long do you keep doing that? And it's a fair question. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? But here's how I see it. As long as he had more good days than bad, as long as he still found joy in something, even if it was just sniffing a patch of grass or curling up beside me, I wasn't going to give up on him. Not yet. Now, let's talk about something people don't want to touch, the idea of when. Not in a cold, clinical way. Not in a let's check boxes way. I mean the real, heavy part of it. How do you know when your dog's quality of life is no longer there? Here's what I learned. You don't wait for some dramatic, final moment. You watch the pattern. You look for the ratio, good days versus bad, joy versus confusion, connection versus fear. I made a list, not a long one, just 5 things Max loved, really loved. 1. His evening walks. 2. Stealing socks and hiding them. 3. Sunbathing on the porch. 4. His stuffed duck toy. 5. Lying next to me while I worked. When he stopped doing 3 out of 5, I knew we were getting close. Not because he was broken, but because he wasn't him anymore. Here's another thing people get wrong. They think euthanasia is about giving up. It's not. It's about showing up. It's the final act of love when all other acts have been exhausted. But we weren't there yet. Max still had pieces of himself that lit up now and then, and I wasn't going to waste those pieces, so I started filming them. Not for social media. For me. For after. I filmed him chasing a butterfly, slow and clumsy, but still trying. I filmed him lying in the grass, eyes closed, nose twitching at every breeze. I filmed him blinking up at me while I scratched behind his ears, his tail barely moving, but still moving. Because this disease will mess with your head. It'll make you question your memory of your own dog. It'll make you wonder if he was ever really happy in those last months. And having those videos, those little moments captured, it reminds you. He was. He really was. Let's zoom out for a minute. You start seeing the world differently when you're caring for a dog with dementia. You get real good at noticing the small stuff. A tail twitch, a head tilt, a longer than usual pause before going through the dog door. You become a detective, a therapist, a bodyguard, a translator. You start recognizing it in other dogs, too. At the park, in neighbors' yards. The slightly off gait, the sudden bark at nothing. And suddenly you want to grab their humans and say, hey, keep an eye on that. That might not just be age. But you don't, because it's a delicate thing. Nobody wants to hear that their dog is slipping away. Not yet. I wish more people knew what I know now. That dementia isn't the end of your dog. It's just a different chapter. And yeah, it's harder. Yeah, it hurts. But it's also full of weird beauty. Like the time Max walked into the closet and just stood there, tail wagging, staring at a stack of old blankets like he'd found treasure. Or the day he forgot how to fetch, so he just laid down with the ball and licked it like it was a newborn puppy. Or the time he woke up from a nap, saw me, and lit up like it was the first time we'd met and he'd been waiting his whole life for me. There's a strange gift in getting to love someone all over again, even when they've forgotten who you are. You love harder, with less expectation, with more patience. You stop living in the future and start measuring time in tail wags and nose boops. And maybe that's the lesson, really. Not just for dog owners dealing with dementia. For anyone who's loving something fragile, every moment is a chance to choose kindness over frustration, presence over distraction, connection over control. There's this woman I met online, Carol. Her dog, Benny, was a Cocker Spaniel, almost 13 when the signs started. She thought he was going blind at first. He kept bumping into things, hesitating at stairs, sometimes just freezing mid-step. She'd call his name and he wouldn't turn his head. Not even a flick of the ear. She thought it was hearing loss too. Vision, hearing, maybe both. That's common in older dogs, right? So she bought ramps, installed nightlights, started clapping her hands instead of calling. Nothing worked. Then one day she watched him get lost in their own backyard. He just wandered in circles. Small ones, big ones, then small again, as if he was trapped inside a maze only he could see. When he finally found the porch, he stood at the wrong door, waiting, glass door, no handle, just standing there shaking. That was the day she knew. This wasn't about eyes or ears. This was deeper. Carol told me the worst part wasn't the wandering. It wasn't the accidents or the nighttime pacing or even the forgetting. It was when Benny stopped responding to her voice. She'd talk, and he'd look right through her. And she said, and I'll never forget this, it felt like I was mourning someone who was still alive. That line gutted me. Because that's what this disease does. It gives you a living grief. You lose them in slow motion, pieces at a time. And there's no funeral, no moment to scream. Just this quiet ache that never leaves your chest. But Carol didn't stop there. She adapted. She put wind chimes outside every door so he could find his way home by sound. She wore a specific perfume every day to anchor him to her scent. She played old jazz records on low volume in the evenings, stuff they used to listen to on the couch when he was young. And guess what? Sometimes he came back. Not all the way. Not for long. But enough. Enough to crawl up next to her, nose to her lap, and sigh like he still knew she was his safe place. So don't let anyone tell you it's hopeless. There's no cure, no. But there's still love. There's still creativity. There's still connection, if you're willing to meet your dog where they are, not where they used to be. I talked to a vet tech named Ray once. He works at a clinic that sees a lot of aging dogs. He told me most people come in thinking they're going to get one big answer fix, a timeline, some kind of roadmap. But there isn't one. Every dog walks this path differently. Some spiral fast. Others coast gently for years. Some forget their names but remember the sound of a snack bag. Some forget where the door is but still remember where you keep the tennis balls. Ray said the most important thing he tells pet parents is this: don't wait for the perfect moment to show up. There won't be one. Just do your best every day to make today a good day. That stuck with me. So I made that my rule. Not, eyes max, still max. Not, how much time does he have? Just, was today a good day? And when the answer was yes, I let myself breathe. You have to, or this thing will eat you alive. There was a moment, maybe 7 months after Max started really declining, when I almost made the call. I had the phone in my hand. I'd already Googled the in-home euthanasia services. I even had a number saved. That morning had been rough. Max had 3 accidents. Got stuck behind the dining room chairs and panicked. When I tried to help, he snapped, not at me, really, more at the air. Just scared. I was exhausted, angry at myself, grieving in real time. And I thought, maybe we're done. But then around 4 p.m., he walked up to me while I was sitting on the porch. Just walked up and rested his head on my knee. That was all. No fanfare, no tail wide, just presence, just him. And I thought, not yet. He's still here. That's what you're holding on to, not the old dog, not the perfect memories, but the real dog in front of you. The one who still trusts you, still needs you, still shows up, even if it's only in brief flickers. And let's be honest, it's not just about them. It's about you too. This process will change you. You'll get better at being patient. Not in a waiting in line kind of way, but the kind of patience that says, take your time, I'm not going anywhere. You'll stop needing things to go according to plan. You'll learn how to pivot, adjust, try again tomorrow. You'll become deeply attuned to another being's emotional state, reading tiny signals, subtle shifts, unspoken fears. And you'll carry that skill forever, into every relationship, every future dog, every moment where someone needs you to show up quietly and just be there. That's the legacy of loving a dog through dementia. It makes you a better human. It teaches you that love isn't about recognition or performance. It's not about tricks or games or even wagging tails. Sometimes, love is just showing up. Even when they don't remember your name. There comes a point, and it's not marked on any calendar, not stamped in a medical report, when the road changes. You start noticing flickers of clarity come less often, that the blank stares last longer, that the pacing doesn't stop even when you speak softly and guide them back to their bed for the 5th time that night. And the hardest part, you still see your dog in there, just buried deeper under layers of confusion. You see him reach for the light, and sometimes he gets close. But it's slipping, and you feel it in your bones before your brain will admit it. Max had a good day on a Thursday. Not great, but good. He followed me out to the backyard and sniffed the grass for a full 10 minutes. I brought out his duck toy, not the original, a soft replacement, but he batted it with his paw once and then laid beside it like it was an old friend. I thought, maybe he's rallying. Maybe we've still got more time. But the next morning, he didn't get up. He wasn't panicked. He just lay there, still breathing, eyes blinking slow, but he didn't move. I brought him water. He didn't drink. I put my hand on his chest. He didn't lift his head. And this is the part no one prepares you for. Not just the goodbye, but the quiet decision to let go before the suffering begins. You want to believe they'll pass peacefully in their sleep, no vet, no needle, no hard choice. But it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, the kindest thing you'll ever do is say, "You don't have to fight anymore." Max and I sat on the floor together that night. I wrapped us both in the old fleece blanket he used to steal off the couch when I wasn't looking. I whispered the things I wanted him to remember, even if he couldn't hold him anymore. I told him about the first day we met, about the time he tried to rescue a soccer ball from a lake and came back with a mouthful of seaweed, proud as hell. About how no matter what else happened in my life, he'd always been the best part of coming home. I told him he was the goodest boy, because he was. To the very last moment, the vet came to the house. I asked her to wait until the sun was low, soft. I wanted him to leave with the light on his face. I held him in my arms, forehead against his, hand over his heart. I felt every single beat until there were no more. And then silence. Not empty, not blank, just still. And in that stillness, I swear I felt something shift. Not a soul leaving, not a ghost. Just the weight of years. The echo of everything we'd shared settling into memory. Grief, real grief. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It doesn't collapse you in the middle of the kitchen floor like you think it might. It moves in slow, steady waves. It shows up in the smallest places, the space beside the bed, the sound of the treat bag, the absence of footsteps in the hallway. But here's the strange truth memory saves you. The disease took so much from Max. It took his sense of direction, his timing, his commands. But it never took what I remembered about him, the real him. That never left. That's what dementia can't steal. Not from me, anyway. And now, when people ask if I'd do it again, if I'd adopt a dog, knowing this might happen, I don't even hesitate. Yes, every time. Because what I got in return, what Max gave me, was worth every night of pacing, every accident cleaned, every 3 a.m. breakdown in the laundry room where I thought I couldn't do it anymore. This disease is brutal. It's quiet. It doesn't give you a finish line you can see coming. But it also teaches you how deep love goes when it has no conditions left. When it's not based on memory or tricks or habits, just presence, just being. That's the real heart of it. So if you're walking this road now, if your dog is starting to slip or already far along, know this: you're not failing. You're not alone. And what you're doing matters more than you'll ever fully understand. Because your dog might forget the path, but you won't. And as long as you remember how it felt to love them, they're not really gone. Not ever.